Hello everybody, welcome. I know I'm a couple minutes early. I wanted to make sure I got the technical stuff all good. Thank you guys so much for being here to celebrate the new year and everything that I've achieved this year. And to thank you guys, I thought I'd do a little bit of a personal Q&A as opposed to all the normal Q&As that we do on Webtoon and through Instagram posts where you can react live and just comment your questions. And anything you guys want to ask me, I'll be right here, whether it's about Reyn, about my work, about life, whatever it is that I can do to share my wisdom with you. Here it is. I already have one question over from the post from Toast Bunny Comics. And the question was what my inspiration was for Reyn and what the most challenging part of the process is in creating the story. So my inspiration for Reyn really started when I was a kid, you know, when you make up stories in your head. But it went a little bit more deeper than that. Anytime I'd have like a problem in my life or anything that was just made me upset even a little tiny bit, I would put that into the story world of Reyn, and I would give her the problems a million times worse than me. So for example, if I'd break like my little finger or something, then Reyn would, I don't know, like lose her half of her body. That doesn't actually happen, don't worry. But by kind of watching these characters go through my problems in much more dramatic situations, I learned how to fix my own life and figured out that most of my problems are actually something that I can solve with my own outlook, or by saying that, you know, maybe I'm lacking some skills and then I go out and try to look for those skills. But then this big world ended up coming out of it, and now it's not autobiographical at all, and there's characters that go through things that I've never gone through and will hopefully never have to go through in my life. But the main inspiration behind Reyn was childhood trauma, or just being a teenager in general, for sure. And the hardest part about it is just staying true to the actual story and not getting caught up with, you know, trends or things that the story has to be in order to be a good story, and making sure that I stay true to my vision. All right, I'll scroll through the comments. So Allow Me to Create asked, are you hyperfixated about animation? I'm hyperfixated on Reyn in general, so whether it's the comic or the animation, that's really what my entire life has been going for. Even back when I was in like school and I had to decide what science I want to take in high school or something, my decision was always based on the fact that what stuff will I need to know in order to make the world of Reyn more realistic and better. And most of my decisions have been made based on what I need to do for Reyn. So while I'm not hyperfixated on animation, I am definitely hyperfixated on Reyn and just telling it in any way possible. Hello, Toga Osamu, hi. Thank you for coming. Also, I hope you guys have been having happy holidays and are excited for the new year. Getting ready all your New Year's resolution that we're all definitely not going to even look at past January 2nd, but at least we make the list, right? Oh, I can wave to people. This is my first live stream, so I'm going to wave to people. Hi. When is the Reyn anime coming? So the script needs to be done by the end of next year, August. So it's going to be an animated feature film. So season 1 is going to be like film 1 in a series of films. The reason for that is because those are just the people that ended up giving me the money. And when it was an issue that it was a series and not a feature film, I was like, oh, no, it's a series of feature films. Perfect. And then they were like, okay, cool. So the script is funded and will be done by the end of next year. Making pre-production and development the year after that, 2025, and then I'll have 3 years. So somewhere around 2028, fingers crossed if all goes well. The film should be in theaters. Kansaku Jamie, thank you. Happy holidays to you too. Any updates on the Reyn animation? Yeah. So yeah, the updates are that the script has been funded by the Austrian Film Institute, and I will have an announcement to make, hopefully within the next week, about the first crew member joining the team, which is a story editor who will work with me on making sure that the script fits for the format of a feature film, and also a bit of a professional eye that's more experienced than me looking over the story to make sure that everything that I'm trying to say with it is actually achieving the goals. And it's actually been super helpful also just reading the comments every week on Webtoon to see what's working, what's not working. A lot of times, a lot of things are working that I didn't actually think are working when people relate to certain characters. I thought it would take a lot longer for people to actually like Raziel after him being really mean in the beginning. But it took like one episode, even though I had planned like a whole little arc in there, but people liked him already, so I didn't even need to do that. Leo is begging for a shout out. That's my nephew. Leo is adorable. Hi, Leo. Toga Osamu got an iPad for Christmas, but I don't know how to draw digitally. Toga, do you know how to draw traditionally? Because drawing is drawing, and the definition of drawing is just learning to see correctly and putting that down. So if you can draw traditionally, learning the software isn't really that hard. I actually had somebody at a presentation when I was in university, I think it was a DreamWorks or Disney animator, saying that when they look for interns or people to work with them and they're looking for animators, they don't care if you animate in 2D or in 3D because they can teach a 2D animator how to use Maya. But if you don't know how to animate, the software isn't really going to help you much. But if you do know how to animate, a software is just a tool. So in that same way, just learning drawing traditionally is all you really need. And then learning the little details on how to use like the Photoshop brushes and stuff. There's so many tutorials on there. Once you know how to draw, just practice and you'll absolutely get there. Procreate is awesome. I've never used it myself, but it's on an iPad and I would love to actually try it because their brushes are absolutely incredible. Shorny, do you sometimes find yourself imagining the Reyn characters in a different genre? If yes, which genre? So the story actually goes through a lot of genres. And the moment we're kind of stuck in that little drama phase because it's taking forever for the comic to actually continue. But it goes through a lot of things like fantasy, action. There's comedy and a little bit of romance spliced in there. So there's really a little bit for every genre almost, except maybe like sci-fi. There's no outer space stuff. But there is like technology. So there's actually a little bit of sci-fi later. They'll be getting like a kind of ship that... Okay, actually I should probably not say that. But I do imagine different situations that do happen in kind of different genres, but they're all part of the same story and will hopefully occasionally happen in the actual story once we get to it. Ooh, so many more people came in. Hello, everybody. I'm going to wave at everyone. This is so fun. Ooh. Toga Osamu, I need tips. What kind of tips do you need? Drawing tips or software tips? I have a lot of tips. Tip number one, whatever it is, if it's software or just drawing, just do it. Get up in the morning or before you go to bed or whenever it is, just draw. Draw things that you don't want to show anybody. Just draw it for yourself to practice. Because when you don't have that fear of performing and you really know this is really for practice, then things actually come out a lot better than you think. And if you do like a couple practice rounds, without that pressure, you actually automatically are a lot better at what you do. Reyn in space. Yeah, that's not going to happen unless somebody wants to... I guess it would make like a fun illustration, but yeah, they don't have the technology to go up into space at this point in time just yet. No. But other than that, it really does go through a lot of different genres. But I'm sorry to say it's not going to be like a light and fluffy comedy, but it will be very wholesome. And there are funny moments. I'm actually making an episode right now that I think is personally very funny. Other people, Reyn might not find it as funny, but I think it's really funny. I've got some more people to wave to. Click. Have you studied writing to help tell Reyn's story? No, I have not. I was expecting to learn storytelling in university, but they just didn't teach it. So I'm currently reading a book. Actually, I can come and pull it up real quick. This book has been awesome. I figured since I'm now officially writing the script for the film, I should learn a little bit more about the formal criteria of story. So I got myself this book. It's called The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. And it's actually really, really cool. And Reyn accidentally does most of what's in this book already. There are a few things that, well, obviously it simplifies things because in order to make sense for every story, everything is a little bit more simplified and stories are generally more complex. But it does help me figure out why the story works. And then there's a few things like in between where it's helping me figure out, oh, if this is like the message that I want to send, maybe there is a better kind of formula for doing that. So I have not studied writing, but I am currently studying it. And also I read a lot and I consume a lot of content in general, like comics and books and any kind of story really. And I really think that storytelling is something that is kind of natural for humans. Like we still tell stories all the time about our day when we call our friends or when we tell somebody an interesting thing that happened to us. Now, of course, being a good writer isn't something that you just kind of like naturally wake up and you're like, oh, I'm an amazing master storyteller right now. But I believe that just the general ability to tell stories is something that's ingrained in us already. And so now I am definitely looking up some books and trying to make myself a better storyteller, especially since it's become more official now, since Reyn has gotten funding. And so performance anxiety and wanting to make sure that everything goes well, which is also why the first crew member that is coming to join on the Reyn project is a story editor. So somebody that has a lot more experience than me. I'm so excited to tell you who it is, which I will hopefully be able to announce in the first week of the new year after all the like legal work is done, and then I'll finally be able to announce it. But yeah, because I haven't actually properly written anything for film before, I'm getting somebody that's a bit more experienced to just read it over and tell me if it's working, and if it's not working, then they'll be able to say what's missing and what I need to work on, and then we'll go back and forth, and I'll have my heart broken every other day about all the things that aren't working in the story, and then hopefully have a good script that is solid and ready to go. I've also gotten for Christmas from my sister a subscription to the Masterclass website or platform where I've been watching some of the masterclasses from storytellers like Neil Gaiman and stuff. Those are also really, really cool to listen to. Who are your favorite authors' inspirations? Ooh, that is a good question. So my favorite author, I read a lot of classics growing up. Those weren't books that I would necessarily like reading, but I really love dissecting them. One of those was Great Expectations from Charles Dickens. I'm a very big fan of environment, so I wrote my extended essay. So my when you finish school, at least here, we had to write like this 4,000 word essay. It's kind of like a bachelor's thesis, but for finishing high school. And I did that on Crime and Punishment and Great Expectations, and analyzed it by kind of realizing that both of the books told the story through the same 5 types of environments. I love backgrounds and environments, and you can find that in my literary analysis as well. And so there was, I love books that use a lot of heavy symbolism, where it's not just the characters that tell the story, but also the entire world that kind of comes through, and which is why I found it really fascinating to analyze those two and compare them with each other. And I realized that they actually have, even though it's a really totally different story, a lot of similarities. So I really love all that like symbolism and hidden Easter eggs and things. Another author that I really love is Nikki French. There are a couple that write thrillers, and there's one book, I think it's called Catch Me When I Fall, that I found really fascinating. It's because there's a murder that happens, and every other chapter alternates between before the murder and after the murder, and you don't find out obviously until the end what exactly happened, even though you're seeing the before and the after of the main character reacting to this murder, and you're thinking like, is she the one that killed him? Like, what's happening here? So I love stories that are a bit unconventional and really, really well thought out. High school essays. I actually loved writing essays. I hated them at the time, but I loved the process of figuring out what to write about. And I still love doing that. Like, I'll sit down with friends and I'll kind of analyze, like, oh, I read this book, and then compare it to another kind of story that I recently saw. And it's really interesting to see how certain messages come across with different ways and how symbolism is used. I think I wrote something about Crime and Punishment with the symbolism of water, because there was like, oh, I forgot who it was. Basically a guy that was a really, really bad sinner and did a lot of bad things. And every time he's in the scene and regretting his life decisions and things, it's constantly either raining or he's washing his hands. There's just always like water in the imagery because he has to purify himself because he's such a sinner. I just love detailed symbolism like that. Cries in AS history exam. Yeah, my condolences. How do you decompress since art storytelling is your passion but also your job? Yeah, I've recently started doing that. So I went to a spa for 2 days, like 2 weeks ago with a friend to decompress, and I didn't bring a single pencil with me. My friend checked my purse to make sure I have no utensils that I can use to draw or to work. She couldn't take my brain away from me, so I still did some work, but I actually have not been doing a good job of decompressing, and I do not recommend it. Actually, last year, my friends all warned me, but when I was working on the animated trailer for Reyn, it was 4 months. I had planned them out to a T. I had like made my schedule, and I knew exactly it's going to be done right before December 7th to upload on December 7th, and everything was going according to plan. What I didn't plan for was my humanity and my sanity. So I was working 12.5 hours every day, Monday to Sunday, at my local Starbucks. So I would like get out of the house and physically go there so that by the time I came home at 10 p.m., I was done with work. But that's still a lot of work, and humans aren't meant to do that work. And I love Reyn, and I really, really do. And I didn't think that this would happen to me because I love what I do. But my friends were warning me. My friend actually often came by, since it was a Starbucks, anybody can just walk in there. She'd kind of like plop my laptop closed, and she'd be like, we're going to go get some lunch now. I'd be like, no, I'm busy. And she'd be like, no, like right now, Chinese across the street, we're going there immediately. So she would just kind of come and have a coffee with me because she's in the area. She lives nowhere near that area, but yeah, she was telling me to take a break, to take at least a day off, and anytime I would be invited to like a birthday party or something, I'd either go for an hour, bring my gift, and then I would come back, but I wouldn't actually celebrate. And sometime by month 3, so like in November, I hit a burnout, and now I really know why they call it burning out, because I really felt just kind of like ashes. But the deadline was coming. I had another month left, so I pushed through it, and the moment it was done, I couldn't even be excited. Like, I'd get a new comment on the video, and I wouldn't even be excited about seeing it. The next day, after I finished the video, I got ready to do some client work. That is one of my favorite clients. Like, he's, I think, one of my first clients ever that constantly commissions me. And it was like, I was really excited to do the project and to finally have something else to do. And like, I opened up my laptop, I opened up Clip Studio. I'm excited to do this work. Everything's done. I'm on schedule. I'm proud of myself. And my eyes just like ooze water out of them. And like, I take my fingers and I'm like, what is that? Why is it sticky? And I realize I'm crying. I'm like, okay, I'll grab myself some tea. And I got myself some tea, and I was still, my body just didn't want to. I wanted to. And this was the really, really scary part. It's that if you burn out, it's not that like you stop wanting to do what you want to do, or I guess the experience is different for everybody, but it's that you really, really want to do it, but you kind of can't. So I took a break from, I didn't take a proper break from Reyn because obviously the episodes were still coming, but if you did notice, I decreased the amount of episodes in that time. So the episodes were shorter, and now they're coming every other week instead of every week, because I was still doing that. So to answer your question on how I decompressed, I didn't, but now I am. So every time I now have something to celebrate, I make sure to celebrate it multiple times. So whatever it is that you find in your life that is worth celebrating, it doesn't have to be something big. Like, you don't have to like win the lottery. you finish an assignment that was really, really hard, or you take an exam that was really hard. It doesn't even have to be hard. You take the exam and you're done with it. I don't care what your grade is. You take the exam, you're done with it. You go out with your friends or with your family. You celebrate, you eat, you don't think about anything to do with work, because otherwise it's not so fun. And it took me a solid year to really get over that. I'm happy to say that everything's good now, and I'm really, really grateful to all of my friends that kind of pulled me away from my life. And one of my friends pulled me all the way to Berlin, to the Berlin Film Festival. And she's like, no, you can't be sad. You're going to come here and we're going to have a ton of fun and life's going to be great. So decompress, guys, and take breaks. All right, I'm going to scroll back through. Ooh, hello, everybody that joined. I'm going to wave at everyone. If I answer a question that's lower down and you sent one before, please send it again, because that probably means I scrolled past it. Hey, I met you recently at Comic-Con. Can you tell us more about your plans on your animation studio? Yes. So if you're in Austria, or you're planning on moving to Austria, which I don't really care what the difference is, as long as you pay your taxes in Austria, then we will be needing a lot of animators here in the future. So the plans are, the feature film script will be done by the end of next year. So that's 2024. And then 2025, if all goes well and we get the next round of funding, is when we do pre-production and development. So that's like upping the character designs, making in the final official version of the pitch deck. I already have a trailer, which you're not supposed to have until phase 3, but it is what it is. And then we'll do pre-production, pre-production and storyboards in phase 3, so that would be 2026. So storyboarding should start 2026, meaning the first film should be done 2028. 2029, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to do as much as possible in-house, which is going to be hard because Austria doesn't have an animation industry. You're looking at 33% of Austria's animation studio. It's right here. So there's like 3, including my bedroom, really. But hopefully by the next round of the grant, we'll have a small team coming together, and then in 3 years, it'll be a big team, because once the production starts for the actual film and the actual animation, we'll need like a few hundred people. But not everything's going to be done in my studio here in Austria. We'll have co-producers. I'm not allowed to announce who they are yet, but there's one that is more or less confirmed over in Germany. So they'll be taking over part of the production, because that's how it works, since animation takes so many people and is so expensive. The funding from one country, at least in Europe, is usually not enough. So what you do is you partner with a few other people, and they get the funding in their countries and then do the like part of the film in their studio, and then you travel like back and forth to take a look at all the artists and to make sure everything's going according to plan. With the ever-changing landscape of filmmaking, what place does animation have within it? Why is it important? And why do you think it's important to educate people on the topic? That's a really good question. A lot of people ask me if I'm using like AI in my work and all of that stuff. So the thing is, AI is cool for people to play with and maybe for concept art, but I'm a control freak and I don't like, putting in prompts and hoping that what I get out of it is what I want. If I put a stroke exactly where I want the stroke to be, and I don't think you can replace skilled workers. Like, even if we look at it today, CG has kind of replaced 2D animation, but just because it's more budget friendly, which it kind of is, CG, it doesn't take as much skill for the animation part, because, it's kind of the same, but the difference between like CG animation and 2D animation is that an animator doesn't have to worry about staying on model. So they don't have to worry about the way the face necessarily looks, or the fact that a character becomes like taller or skinnier or fatter or something because the model is there. You can still go off model in terms of like expressions, and if somebody doesn't really emote as exaggerated as someone else, it would still be off model to do that. But that's just in terms of movement. But in terms of the actual character, you'll always be able to point your finger and be like, oh, that's Reyn. Because there's one person or like a small group of people that made the character model, and the character model is who it is. That's because it's easier to streamline. It's easier to outsource, because every single drawing will look exactly the same because the character is there. So the reason that the world has kind of been going towards this direction isn't because more people like it. So if you look at the comments of most of the CG films that are coming out from like Disney and stuff, people don't prefer CG animation to 2D animation. I mean, it depends. Like things like Arcane were really, really cool. But this Pixar stuff that is kind of just recycled over and over again, that looks the same over and over again, is kind of boring. So people, the landscape of filmmaking might be changing, but at the end of the day, a good story is a good story. And as long as the good story is at the peak of the medium that you're telling it in. So for example, I'd say something like Arcane is like a peak CG animated show. Whereas like all of these cheap CG kids shows that look like they're plastic are definitely not masterful. So as long as it's a mastery of whatever medium that's being used. Now, the landscape changing with AI, it's not really, like AI isn't really viable for production yet, but we have been using automated systems for different parts of a production pipeline in the past as well. So like there will be people in animation studios whose job it is to program specific like UI, specific tools that make our lives a lot easier. For example, AI is used in things like archiving and making sure the files are where they need to be and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the artistic sense, AI can only spit out what previous artists have fed it. And if you're feeding it, first of all, it's immoral off of people that don't even get money for the fact that you're using their work, because it's AI generated, but it's still using people. But let's say we would have a moral like company that makes AI where you train it based on your own artists. So you'll have like a studio, a team of people that are all doing like concept art for Reyn. You feed all of that concept art into the AI and then it spits out things. Sure. But at that point you have the concept artists that you need in order to even feed the AI. So there's really no point in the AI. But things like, for example, auto coloring processes would be cool, where you'll have like an artist color like the first couple of frames of an animation, including, it would be great if you could like include the shading and the lighting and stuff, and then it interpolates the rest. That would be cool, because then you still have an artist kind of controlling exactly where things go, and then they can edit it afterwards. But that would require the file that you get to be an editable, layered file the way the animator needs. So if we get there, that could be really cool. But we're not there yet. So nothing's really changing in that sense, really. 2D animation is still being watched. I mean, people in the Japanese animation industry, like half of them are still using pencil and paper. It is what it is. Animation is animation. You get the movement out there, and the movement is out there. Kansaku Jamie, be nice to yourself. You have some wonderful... Oh, thank you so much. I do have wonderful friends. They saved me on more occasions than once. That friend that actually invited me over to Berlin was somebody I had met for like a solid 3 hour. We went to have dinner together, and that's just about it. And then we just stayed friends and like talking a little bit here and there, but not super close. And she's just amazing. Oh, hello from the Pomerances. Hello, Pomerances. Here, I'll send you a wave. Thank you for being here. Caesar, hi. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you. You too. Have you done a TED Talk? What was the conference like? I have not done a TED Talk, but it is on my bucket list of things that I would love to do one day. I've done pitching conferences where I basically go on a stage and try to convince a bunch of people that are older and richer than me, 99% of them being men, to give me like a bunch of million euros in order to make a film. And the experience of that was really scary, but also really, really fun. Like, I'm nervous for the first 30 seconds while my brain is trying to figure out what I want to say, because no matter how much I practice it, once I kind of go out and see the audience and the faces that they're making, I change what I say, which is why this is a little hard, because I'm looking at myself. It's a bit weird. So I kind of look at the room and see if what I'm saying is interesting. If not, I'll have like a few backup things to say. So while we're on the topic, a little pro tip for public speaking is, if you know what you're going to say, you're not going to be nervous. So if you practice like 4 or 5 different scenarios of how the conversation could go. And it's never really worked for me to imagine people with like their underwear on or something like that. People say that that's a thing that people do. Instead, I just imagine that I'm talking to these people, like we're having a conversation. Okay, cool, there might be 1,000 of you sitting in an audience, but at the end of the day, it's just a conversation, and I wouldn't be scared talking to any of these people one-on-one. So why would I be scared of talking to them all at once? It's a lot more efficient, right? I just say one thing, and it's a lot nicer that way. So if anybody knows anybody from TED, please let them know. I would love to run a TED Talk. Sherelle, do you think AI would ever be capable of being actually creative? Now, that's a good question. If we would define creativity as something that, like, if we would give it a framework for what it means to be creative, then sure. The thing is, humans, to what extent are we really creative? Because, like, I love this question. Like, think of a color that doesn't exist. You can't. So humans can make new things out of other materials, but we can't actually just completely invent something that doesn't exist. Even airplanes, like somebody looked at, or Da Vinci looked at birds and he was like, oh cool, they fly, I also want to fly. Or like, even if you see a leaf in the wind, you'll be like, oh, that floats, I also want to float. So we apply things, I think, that like we know to other things. So what humans can do that makes us creative is we can see things in different ways. For example, we're walking on Earth and we're like, hey, there's a rock up in the sky called the moon. Maybe I can walk on the moon the way I do on the Earth. So we're capable of thinking in new ways, but can we really, really create something that has never existed before in terms of like visual storytelling and stuff like that? So anything that we kind of create is based on something that we know. It's not a copy, and it's not like we're using a recipe to make a new ingredient or something, but at the end of the day, we really, for example, like I can't tell a story about something that I really, really don't know. Like a character that goes through emotions that I've never felt, that I don't know anybody has ever felt. Like if I write, there are some characters in Reyn that I personally don't relate to because they just think differently than me, or personalities don't match. So I'll ask around to figure out how, like, observe how other people would handle the situations. Oftentimes people actually handle situations a lot less realistically than animated characters. Like reality is really the most immoral and unnatural thing if you think about it. Like if you think about the people you know and the way they react to things, sometimes I just think if I would write that into a script, nobody would think it feels realistic. So in that sense, I don't know if AI would be able to do that. I think with time AI can do anything really, but the question is, can it do something fresh and new without feeding on humans who have done it before? I don't think so. Tom, you need massive amounts of training data for the knowledge base. Long live non-trained human art. Yeah, well, humans train as well. That's why it's really, really hard to be an artist. It's not like, oh, you know, you go to school and then you learn how to draw and then you're done. Most artists start drawing long before they go to school. Like, how many doctors do you know that start cutting people open before they go to med school? Like, nobody does that. But artists, like, we've always drawn and we'll always continue drawing, even if we don't do it as a career. It's just something that we're always going to continue doing. So in that sense, we are trained, kind of like AI, except that we use our own brain and we don't emulate something from people without giving them like credit. Even if an artist uses like a photograph somewhere for like a lighting study, you see that a lot where they'll find like a really cool photographer on Instagram and heavily reference their image and use very similar like lighting situation and stuff. They will tag that person, or they will at least put a screenshot of the Instagram site on which that photographer put that photo, and then you can see exactly what that artist did from that photograph to make it like theirs. But even so, they still usually credit the photographers. I mean, obviously not everyone does, but most artists that know what it's like to not be credited for their work, they credit the other artist. A photographer is also an artist. So we are also trained in that sense, but we're nicer. Kensaku Jamie, you speak very well in public from what I've seen. Oh, thank you guys so much. I hope so. I do a lot of talking in front of people at this point, where I have to convince them of very big things. And then there's like little me on a stage, just like, hi, I have a dream. Please give me money so that I can make it happen. And then when they want to give me little money, I'll be like, but then I have to enslave people, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm actually currently also fighting with the Austrian government. I hope no one's here. Fighting is a strong word. We are heavily discussing the fact that there are no minimum wage requirements for animation industry workers, which means that I would have to pay somebody a very non-living wage if I wanted to use the funding to hire an animator, which I formally refuse. So we are currently trying, I'm going to go there with like pitchforks and telling them that that's not okay, because the offer that I had gotten to work for like another company here in Austria was like half of what I'd get working as like a cashier in a grocery store for a department head position. Like that doesn't work. So I refuse to do that. That's also another thing that I really find really important with my own companies, that I mean, I won't have millions to give out to people, but if somebody's working 40 hours, they should at least be able to pay rent, you know? Like, we're not going to be walking around with diamond jewels for the first film. Maybe it was like the second film. For the first film, I'll just be happy if we can, like, have pizza every day. That would be great. But I kind of feel like it's your responsibility, if I employ people to work on Reyn, like, sure, maybe they like the story, and you know, there are people that like do fan art and stuff, but at the end of the day, if someone's employed 40 hours, I might drive myself to the bone because I love Reyn. It means so much to me. But if I'm responsible for somebody else's livelihood, they have to be able to pay rent, because as much as they tell me that they love Reyn and all of that stuff, if they're sitting in an office from 9 to 5, they need to go home and be with their family and be able to afford food and electricity and all of that. So yeah, currently arguing with people over here. Actually, I'm representing the Austrian animation industry at the Austrian Media Conference in like 20 days. If anyone's in Austria, feel free to come to that. It's called CIMIX, C-I-M-I-X. I'll post stuff on Instagram before I go there. Anyway, it's where we'll be discussing like the industry in Austria and in like all the other departments, like film and media and what else is this? Like games and VR? Something like that? Yeah. What other media helped inspire Reyn? Other media, like other films? That's a good question. Directly, nothing. But I obviously watched a lot of things growing up. And so it's kind of like indirectly influencing who I am as a person, the kinds of stories that I tell. One of my favorite animes is like Full Metal Alchemist. Now, if you compare that to Reyn, they're both sad. I think that's something they definitely have in common. But I guess I was inspired just by stories that aren't super conventional. Like person A fights with person B, and then the good guy wins, and then everything is happy. Sorry, maybe that's a spoiler for the ending. But any kind of story that doesn't necessarily follow that. Also why I prefer the original anime version of Full Metal Alchemist, because it doesn't end as happy. I mean, it's a bit of a weird ending, honestly, but I like the fact that, you know, in life sometimes things don't magically tie up and you have to find a way to be happy about that anyway. Alright, Sky, but honest question is, do we really want AI art once we have an overdoses of it? Humans tend to lose interest after a while, after all, yeah. I agree. And also, you can kind of tell what's AI and what isn't. Even like when I'm scrolling Instagram and I see a painting, I'm like, oh, that looks really pretty. Oh, that's AI, isn't it? And then I look and it usually is. And AI right now is just looking like a regurgitation of a bunch of artists that I actually really like. And I feel like everybody kind of knows who these artists are because they're super famous and everyone loves their work. So we know how to tell that it's not that person actually doing the drawing. So art isn't something that's meant to just be scrolled past. Like, the purpose of art is, like, when humans have everything they want in life, like, you know, you've got a family, or if you want a family, you've got money, you're sitting on, like, a mountain of gold, you've got a nice house. What is it that you actually end up doing when you get bored? We start creating things. People do crafting, People make their own clothes, even like practicing makeup or like hairstyles, and going into fashion or drawing and puzzle making. Like, we love creating things, and that's kind of who we are as a species. And I feel like the most peaceful society, and when you know like your society has won, is when you've got more people doing art than anything else, which is why a lot of like a Renaissance like time period people, well, that was also a bit weird because most of the money was in the hands of weird people, but ton of money went out to artists. Of course, it was just a select few, right? Most of the artists were actually starving and stuff. That's also not good. But you'll have a lot of societies, the Romans, for example, they'll have a lot of decorational stuff whose purpose is absolutely nothing other than the fact that we like it pretty. They'll have like mosaics and decorations in their houses, interior design and all of that stuff. That's because that's how you know that the society is successful. You don't have people losing their lives in war. You don't have people that need to work for like the security of a country. You've saved so much effort, and you can put that energy, instead of trying to survive and to keep your species running, you can put that into actually being who we are as people, and we like to create things. So why make a machine do, like, what is the point of having a machine create art? Like, sure, have machines do the fighting for us, have machines do things we don't want to do. Why would we make machines? Just think about the kind of person that made the machines. What was their goal? I actually haven't read on this, but I assure you that person was not an artist. They're probably just frustrated that like artists need money and they want to be like capitalistic or something like that. So I'm not a fan of AI art. Do you happen to have old concept art somewhere? Yes. I will take you with me. So come take a walk through my room with me. This is the Reyn wall. There is some really old and cringy concept art. Actually, here, wait, this one is kind of cool. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I'm not going to zoom into that because these are like a bunch of the plot points that are coming up soon. They're color-coded, so if you guys are interested in the writing process at all, these are color-coded, which means that, for example, all the pink things, the first pink thing has to happen after this, the first pink thing has to happen before the second pink thing, but you can put as many yellow things in between the pinks as you want. So that's how I kind of work on the chronology of things. Like, something can happen before something else, but it needs to happen before something completely different happens. So that's how I kind of like work around. These are seasons 1 through 7. And this is a the first page that I ever wrote. And then there's also, where do I have some really old concept? I'm probably gonna, can I switch my camera here? There you go. Can I zoom in? Ah, perfect. Okay, so this is baby Reyn, the blue dress. That's also Reyn with the wings. Anything that has wings is usually Reyn. Here's also some more Reyn. So yeah, this was from 2012. So yeah, I have a lot of old concept art of Reyn. I'm actually making a new website to compile all of my Reyn art and stuff. It's kind of already launched, but I'm still working on some details. So I'm just going to stick my phone back in here real quick without breaking the live call. There you go. I am a professional. All right, where were we? Old concept art. Wait, there really isn't a minimum wage. Heavy sigh. Yeah, there is no minimum wage here. It's kind of organized by like trades. So there's a specific minimum wage for each different industry. And since Austria doesn't have an animation industry, there is no set minimum wage. So it kind of automatically falls on the media and marketing communication, which means that the lowest paying salary is like 1,200 euros per month before taxes, which comes out to like 900 euros after taxes. Just so you know, the average rent, like if you share an apartment with a couple of roommates and stuff, you're looking at 600 euros a month. You could probably go for like 400 or 500 euros, but that leaves you what, 400 euros for electricity and heating and food for a month. Yeah, that's not happening. That's such a great mindset. You're the chef that I would absolutely love to work for if I could animate, not lying here. Thank you so much. Well, I will need a lot of awesome people that also don't necessarily need to animate. There's a lot of jobs. I'm actually talking about this in January. There's a lot of jobs in animation that don't require people to do animation. There's like concept art, character design, and even the non-visual stuff. There's production assistants, production coordinators. That's the people that do all the Excel spreadsheets and gently nudge the artists when they're not delivering their animation on time. Like, hey, the deadline was yesterday. How are you doing there? Is there anything I can do to help you? Also known as, are you going to make it on time, or do we need to fix the schedule? Yeah, so if you guys are generally interested in working in animation, you don't necessarily need to animate. There's also like compositing and color corrections and adding the effects in, a lot of which is actually pretty simple work. Like once somebody sets up the compositing templates for a specific scene, you'll have like a bunch of shots in a scene. And if somebody kind of shows you exactly what you need to do and puts in the colors and stuff, all the plugins, then a lot of like junior artists or even interns would be able to figure out how that works and basically copy what they're doing for the rest of the scenes, for the rest of the shots within the scene, because it's all like the same color composition and stuff. So there's also a lot of room for people just like learning what it means to do things. Also something that I definitely want to do in the company is put more emphasis on, typically in like countries like Austria where there is no industry, they'll hire like senior artists internationally, which is great. Like we need to do that if we don't have our own. But then once the project is over, they just kind of send those senior artists home and fire them. But I'm hoping that if I get the funding and have enough money for it, to hire a bunch of aspiring artists or people that are kind of fresh from university and stuff, to work with the more experienced international artists, so that in time we have a pool of local talent that, you know, the more people you have that can do animation really well, the more stuff you can produce. So it's kind of like a win-win situation, because also being the only studio, one of the only studios here, but the only 2D studio here, would also mean that once film one is over, everyone's just fired, which I don't want to do. But I know that, you know, it happens to everybody, so I guess I can't be too naive and think that it won't happen to me as well. But I'm hoping that we can find some kind of like stable solution for that. Ideally to already have the money lined up for film 2 so that we can get right into it. But I'm trying my best. Doesn't mean that it'll succeed, but hopefully it's a step in the right direction. Kansaku Jamie, good job advocating for your fellow animators. I appreciate you putting in effort for the people of the industry and your country. Oh, thank you so much. That's great, and it's crazy there are no laws in place. Yeah, I agree with you. Since the animation industry in Austria is basically non-existent, I think it's awesome that you're trying to push do. It'd be cool to work with you in the future. Oh, thank you so much. It would be awesome to work with you. Once I'm ready for people to start kind of applying. I've already like kind of touched my feelers here and there to see what's out there in Austria. But I will definitely keep everybody posted on social media. And there might also be some room for freelancers internationally. For none of the department head positions probably, but some like animated shots here and there. But I'll definitely keep everyone posted. I'm also hoping to do a like Kickstarter / Patreon. I'm still trying to pick a platform for it where people can support once the animated film is like in production. I know you're not supposed to share production content, but I don't really see why not. Just because I feel like this industry is so gatekeepy. Like nobody knows what happens between like storyboards and then the movie's done and in cinemas. And so I'd like to kind of show the process behind the scenes of different snippets of what's going on while we make the movie, which means that people could support the process and also learn from our mistakes and like how things work, and kind of support it through the internet as well, and also figure out and learn how an animated film is even made. And it's just kind of cool to look back on something like that, and then I'll be able to be like, oh no, guys, don't do this was a mistake. But then other people can learn from our mistakes. Oh, Sky, Reyn, you worked a lot on Reyn. It's so impressive. love the wall of progress. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, if you hadn't noticed, Reyn is like 99% of my life. It's a healthy obsession, I promise. Hello, Orlans. How are you? Thank you. I'm awesome. How are you, Forgotten Stars? Oh, Forgotten Stars webcomic. I actually know you. I do love how you have all that stuff to look back on and take pride in not only the growth in your skill, but how your dream has slowly become more true. I'm hoping it's coming true. It's definitely looking a lot more realistic than it did last year, when everybody kept rejecting. I don't know if I actually told the story on socials. I applied for the same funding that I got now over summer in June, and I got rejected, flat out rejected, with a very interesting reasoning that the story is too brutal for kids. Like, yeah, it's not a kid's story. And not adulty enough for adults. It's like, yeah, it's not an adult story. Then again, what exactly is an adult? Like, once you're 18, do you stop watching teenage movies? Like, no, you don't. Everybody, like, once, even if you're 40 years old, you know, you were 15 once, and that teenager is still a part of you. Whereas if you're a kid, like, sure, you know, being a kid is still a part of you, but you don't remember it as much, and you don't really control what you watch when you're a kid. So if you're like 5 and you're watching, like, I don't know, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or whatever it is that 5-year-olds are watching nowadays, like, you're not going to want to watch that when you're older. But the stuff you watch as a teenager, like, you'll watch that kind of forever. Like, there was a new Bleach season that came out. I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers, please. But I'm no longer the target audience, I guess, because I'm not a teenager anymore. But everybody that I know that grew up watching Bleach absolutely loved it. So I don't understand this whole target audience thing, I'll be honest. But anyway, they told me that teenagers are just like not an audience. So I called them and asked for clarification and just kind of shut me down. So I called them again and I was like, hi, do you not fund content for teenagers? Because I don't find it anywhere in your rule guide book that, you know, that it says you don't fund content for teenagers. And they were like, no, of course we do. Who told you something like that? And I was like, well, my document here said that I got rejected because it's for teenagers. And because I kind of put them on the spot, I'm sorry. The secretary lady was really nice. But in her panic, she kind of forwarded me to the boss. That was like the chief of the jury. He was really, really nice. And he was like really politely explaining to me that teenage animation, first of all, doesn't have a space in Austria, and second of all, internationally, it doesn't really earn money. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, go to a single Comic-Con. It was like 2 weeks before the Comic-Con in Vienna. So like, just go and just look at how many people are spending money on like comics and anime and manga and whatever, movies, science fiction things. Like, people hate reality. Like, they will spend their last cent to be anywhere else but here, no matter what age they're at. So what I actually told him in the phone call is I shot a bunch of statistics at him and told him that, you know, this is how many billions of market value it has, and how these kind of movies have only increased in popularity over the years, even trickling down to Austria, where we don't create anything, but there's so many people consuming the content that other countries make. And I was like, you know, we should like seize the demand and supply it locally and stuff, and make an animated studio here. So he invited me to a personal meeting with him that was supposed to last for half an hour, and I ended up talking to him for a little over a whole hour. And towards the middle of that conversation, he was convinced, like, okay, teenage animation is something maybe we should try funding, but that requires setting up a whole industry, and we don't have anyone here with the skills to do something like that. And I was just like, give me the money and I'll do it. And he was like, okay, that's great. But like, basically, he didn't say it out loud, but basically he was like, oh, cute little girl, what are you going to do? So I brought my 35-page business plan. I brought my Reyn pitch deck, which I can actually show you. This is what I give to like potential business partners and stuff. So it's like a little booklet that has all the important information on Reyn. Oops, some spoilers in there from season 2. Yeah, this is what I kind of put like all my documents on the table and printed out my plan and stuff. And he was just like, okay, you know what? You convinced me. Next time the jury meets, send in your project and hopefully you'll get a positive outcome this time. And I actually did. So just because people tell you no, don't take their word. Well, I mean, if everybody's telling you no, maybe you should think about maybe you're the problem. But generally speaking, you know, there's people reading Reyn online, and most people aren't commenting things like, oh, this is such crap, why are you spending your life on it? So thank you guys for reading Reyn and giving me the confidence to tell this guy in his face that Reyn is a good enough story for him to put money in it. So yeah, as long as you believe in yourself, that's like step number one. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to be able to convince other people to believe in you and to throw money at you. And something else that I realized is this guy never read Reyn. Like, he had all these documents, and I also have a actual novel version of Reyn that I gave him. He didn't read that. He doesn't have the time for that. Nobody gives money to good projects. They give money to people that they trust, because in a capitalistic society. Now, I mean, if you're working with like publishers and things, that's different, because publishers will actually, I think, look at the quality of the content that you're producing. But selling yourself is kind of like equally as important as having something good to sell. Because like films, I find the whole box office thing really interesting too. Like, who watches a film in the box office? The box office, like, you know, the opening weekend or like the first week of the film. And if a film does really well, it's meant to be like a good film, but you don't know if the film is good or bad before you walk in there. So you have to buy a ticket to realize if the film is good or not. So earning a lot of money in the box office in the first week, in my personal opinion, means that you have good marketing, not that you have a good film. Now, if this film is earning money down the line, when people have told other people that's a good movie, like Barbie, people went multiple times. People grabbed friends like, this movie is great, we need to go watch it together. That means the film is good. People are enjoying the film. But box office opening weekend, like, everyone's watching it for the first time. Just because you made a lot of money doesn't mean your film is good. It just means that, like, you're Disney, or you have like a big publisher or distributor behind you that is doing good marketing. So I kind of went on a tangent a little bit there. I'm gonna wave to everyone. I don't know what happens when I click wave, but like, I'm waving at you guys. Hi. Sky, I mean, I still watch Weihnachtsmann and Coca. Oh, I love that movie. Sometimes watching stuff for nostalgia is a reason to watch stuff as an adult. So Weihnachtsmann and Co, it still has like plot. So when I meant like kids stuff, I meant like the really little, like A, B, C kind of things. Like, nobody watches that for nostalgia. But I love Weihnachtsmann and Co. I love so many of these cartoons. I love Winx Club. Winx Club was one of my favorite like kids cartoons. But honestly, I'd still think that's kind of for teenagers. Or it's like, because it's got too much plot for like little kids. But honestly, who cares? We're adults. We can watch what we want. Yes, I completely agree. I mean, since we're already paying bills and doing all that stuff, the very least that the world can allow us is to enjoy our cartoons. Wait, more Bleach is trying to stick around longer than The Simpsons. Yes, I haven't... Simpsons, sorry, not Symptoms. I haven't actually seen it, but I think they're just animating, like, the end, because there's, like, a bit of the story that didn't actually get made into the anime. So I think it's just the ending, basically. But I've seen the trailer, and the animation is beautiful. First, it's going to surpass One Piece, which I feel like is impossible. Now, One Piece is on a roll. I haven't seen that yet, but it really is. So I'm waving at everyone. Kansaku, you're going to go so far in life. Thank you so much. I hope I am, and if I am, everyone's coming with me. This is going to be like a hike up the mountain. If I ever get to the mountain, I'm coming right back down. Now, I'll build, like, you know, those like those rope elevators. I don't know what those are called. Gondolas. I'll build some gondolas, and then I'll come back down for everybody else, and then we can like ride the gondola up easy. So not everybody has to do the heavy hike. Like, it's enough if like one person suffers all the way through. Yeah, but also thank you to everyone that's supporting me, that's reading Reyn, leaving comments, liking, and just being there on the other side of the screen and asking me questions. This is really what I do it for. Is, yes, I do it for myself and stuff, but there's only so far you can go with a project for yourself. And I've gone like the maximum way I can with it being just for me. And I already separated like my Reyn and like the audience's Reyn. So like there's the product that needs to be good and people need to like it. The Reyn in my actual head doesn't make any sense. Like the chronology doesn't string together. It's just a bunch of scenes that I find cool. But at this point, it's like everybody's Reyn, and I'm hoping that you guys enjoy where it's going. And also the last couple of episodes, the comments really just brought tears to my eyes. People like analyzing the characters and really putting themselves in their shoes and learning empathy through that, and figuring out that, you know, maybe this guy that was actually a jerk has his reasons. He's still a jerk, but, he's got his reasons for being a jerk. And how people were, like, replying to each other's comments and with their own takes on, like, why this character is doing the things he's doing. That, I just love waking up to comments like that. Thank you for sharing this experience with all of us. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being along for the ride. Absolutely enjoying the story and crying along. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make people cry. Okay, maybe I kind of do. But I promise the crying is worth it. It's not just like cry, and then everyone just like explodes. These are character development tears. May you always continue to break our hearts with your beautiful and cruel stories. Thank you so much. There's wholesome moments too. We're just kind of stuck in the beginning still. So a lot of things, like she's still so useless. She's like 11 years old right now. But I promise it's going to get a lot more exciting along the way. But thank you for letting your hearts be broken. And I hope that when they get stitched back up together again, they will be stronger than they were before. All right, we've got like 2 minutes left. If there are any more questions, feel free to ask. I went off on so many tangents. Otherwise, I'll keep looking. But otherwise, I want to say thank you to everybody that came. Thank you for you guys who watched. I will hopefully be able to upload this to Instagram. But so like everybody else can watch it too. But it should be available either right after this, or I'll work on figuring out how to upload this afterwards. I might have missed this while topping up on nicotine. Do you have any terrible art animation experiences to share? And as a warning, I will not warn anybody of making terrible experiences, because that's the only way that you can really learn. Everyone has cringy art. That's the point. And without it, like if I warn people not to do it, they're never going to actually get to the good part. So you kind of have to get all that really terrible art out of you before you can figure out what makes it good. So like in 100 terrible pieces, there will be like one stroke that is good, where you'll be like, oh, this actually felt really comfortable. And then the next time you'll make 100 strokes, you'll make one that is good. And then you'll make a second one that is good, and you've got 98 that are bad. And like with each time, fewer and fewer strokes are going to get bad. But even then, you'll make bad strokes all the time. So the only warning I would give is to take breaks and to never lose sight of your goals. So if you want something, you go for it. Like, you have one life left to live. And at the end of the day, I mean, I know this is kind of morbid, but at the end of the day, we're all ending up 6 feet under, or, ashes along the ocean, or whatever it is that people do nowadays. So it doesn't really matter what you do with your life, because your ending is kind of certain anyway. So that kind of leaves you up to just do whatever the freak you want. Like, go have fun, go achieve your dreams, go become an artist, go become a lawyer, whatever it is that you want to do with your life. Just do it, because you have one life and you should kind of live it to the fullest. Because you shouldn't really take things too seriously. Like, oh, what if my dreams don't work? Who cares? Like, your ending is kind of written for you anyway. So the only thing you have is to enjoy the journey on the way there. Sorry, it's kind of morbid, but it kind of makes me feel a lot more free to do what I want to do, because it takes away the pressure. You need to pay your bills. You do want to survive and live to, take a journey. But you don't have to worry so much about where you're going. I feel like as long as you do your best and stay on track as much as you can, and really do at least one thing a day that gets you towards your goal. It doesn't have to be like a full day. For example, like if my goal is Reyn, at least 20 minutes spent just like in the story world of Reyn and developing it further. I spend a lot more than that. I work on Reyn before going to bed and when waking up in the morning, and whenever I'm on like a car or transit. Not when I'm driving a car, when I'm like sitting in a car. Whenever I'm somewhere in transit, I've got like headphones in, listening to music and working on the story. So that leaves me with at least an hour and a half a day in a different reality. So since I was like 6 years old, back when I was 6, it was a really cringy story. But that means that, you should be doing at least one thing a day that gets you there. You don't have to do like 2 hours of storytelling in your brain, but whatever it is that gets you towards your goal, just kind of go for it and do it. Even if it's just a little bit, people have jobs, we have lives that we need to live. Not everyone can kind of throw all caution to the wind. Like, you shouldn't throw all caution to the wind. Please eat and sleep and, you know, have enough money to pay rent and stuff. But the most important thing is that we live life to the fullest. It's kind of like a game, you know, like if you have a game where the moment you leave, like the spawning zone, and you go out into the world, there's only one life and then it's game over. If you spend, like, imagine you spend so much money on this game. Of course you're going to be cautious. You don't want it to be game over immediately because you want to explore the world and figure out what these game developers put into this game. But you're not just going to stay in the safe spawn area or like in that, you know, beginner's village in the level 1 and never venture outside. You're obviously going to try, you know, leveling up and getting your armor, making sure that you're ready for the journey, and then you go out there and you try to see like where the boss battle is and what kind of cool landscapes and quests you can find along the way. Just like that in life, like nobody should stay in level 1 village and just do the safe thing, even though they really, really want to venture out. Like, why not venture out? What do you have to lose? I mean, unless your definition of venturing out is like hanging out with creepy people and murderers and stuff. Don't do that. But in terms of like goals and things that you want to achieve in life, just go for it. So I went off on a tangent a little bit again, but I do not have any warnings to give against terrible art. Just go and make a lot of terrible art. Make more terrible art than good art. Make terrible art just for the sake of making terrible art. Be like, how terrible can I make this art? But it's going to feel so good. I promise. Oh, hello to everyone that just joined. So we're kind of like nearing the end, but you can still ask some questions. I'm still here. This is my office and my life. I have no schedule. I'm just constantly... This is where I'm constantly sitting and drawing. I just got this cool drawing tablet recently. It's a Cintiq, so I can actually see what I'm doing. It's so exciting. Yeah, but I will upload this and save it and archive it and put it up as a post, reel, video, whatever it is that Instagram is calling it now. Though I don't know if an hour, maybe I'll have to put it on like YouTube or something. But I'll put it somewhere for you guys to find. So thank you all for coming. I think that was the last question. But if you ever have any other questions, the post is still up on my account. You can just pop a question in there. And I'll continue answering a few things if anything comes up. I'm generally very friendly, so if you have a question, I will answer it. It was awesome to kind of do this chat with you and to be together. I wish I could like see your guys' faces as well. It's a bit awkward talking to myself, but thank you to everyone who's been commenting in the chat and asking questions. Kansaku, keep up the fantastic work. I love seeing where your creativity and perseverance is taking people. Thank you so much. I'm doing my best. I'm struggling along the way, but my friends keep pulling me back up, so I'm gonna keep running forward and hoping that it gets me somewhere. Right. I wish you guys a happy new year, happy holidays. Take a break. This is the time when everybody should be taking a break. Just schedule in break times and enjoy time with your friends, family, with yourself and your food. Eat a lot of fruit and cake, and just calories during holidays don't count. Just enjoy your life. And thank you so much again for everybody that's been supporting me and saying all these nice things. One more thing I want to say is when I posted that post about getting the funding, where so many people came in, and people that I had never even like interacted with online before. Everyone was just commenting that things like they've been like following me for a few years now and that they're so happy and proud. That just brought tears to my eyes, because like I had never even known that these people were there, and suddenly everyone was just like so happy with me. And yeah, just thank you. You're the best. Aw, that's my mom right there. No, you're the best. You're the best for creating me. I'm very grateful. Thank you. So now I can create Reyn and make a lot of people cry. And then I'll make a lot of people happy through their tears. That's what we do it for. So thank you guys. I hope you guys have wonderful holidays. And see you soon.